Yep.
Is it running?
Oh yeah.
Does it record sound as well?
Oh yes, it records sound very well.
You read everything we're saying?
Yes.
Talking.
I don't want to stick the camera out, otherwise I'll scrape the cars.
That's just like gingerbread that used to be put on houses years ago. So what the case is like? This is why we have trouble with the text.
No.
And isn't that unfortunate? Yeah. When it gets loose, it's something a while. There's a bigger man. Oh, that one? Yeah. In fact, that one, yeah, that one there was found. It looks as lovely like the outcome. 10 years ago, it was found. And so the stonehouse is maybe that was really back. So the doors are about 600 years.
I want that to be on the record.
600 years. No, I did not.
Huh?
I did not.
All right.
This is like you write in the diary.
That's what we do, Pat.
I'm sure.
Did I?
Yeah, I'm always glad when they're fresh. We have those too. They are.
It'll be foreign, yeah. Most villages will have a service center. Yeah, so it's led there. Yeah. But probably long ago when the first bit was finished, when it gets finished, what is the plan? You'll get people, I mean, we have three best events in one. And people will use the stuff, they're going to sell it for about 15 pounds. And it probably costs us several thousand to repair the damage. Yeah. And we come and do the stones every so often. We did some earlier this year. Well, I came down one Saturday morning, and we did a whole row down there.
We're tipping the street.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We've got to do that at Thornton. Two of my grandparents and my father's.
But I mean, this is better than the newer bit down there. The newer bit there. The second is very expensive.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. It's the first step.
Yes. Yeah. But it's better if you can just go between them.
Oh yeah.
Rather than people have fussy little ornamental, non-religious type gravestones there, don't they? But when you see the size of these things, you know what people spent on gravestones then was enormous. Yeah. They reckon that people would spend a whole year's income on doing a funeral for somebody.
Also, of mercy his wife.
Q-tips here, don't they? We exchanged the tablets. It's about 35, 25, 75.
Hey Jen, that was 33.
Yeah.
18.
Churches always have the awful piece there. Yeah, probably true. And but they were built over here. They're around here, but the churches were up now. And they would most of them do the middle aisle, the nave first, then maybe some more money. 100 years time a good mile, then another aisle, and probably the tower will be second after the chance, after the chance, and then a lot of the churches got a spire on the top, and the spire's always built after the game. But I mean today's build that, it would cost you millions and millions of pounds. Got a few churches in Italy there. Two. Some on the Sunday.
What tree is this?
That's a cedar. Cedar's, yeah. There's various types. I think that's the cedar of Lebanon, that's called. Wonderful tree. When it has some of these branches, it's kind of like working on the cedars. That one there is got to that. That's a kissing hand. Oh yes. Yeah. One at a time and kiss everyone. That's the rich man.
That was the laundry, wasn't it?
That's right. It was actually the laundry and the servants' house for the big house. This is a village school here. There's about 100 pupils. And they go there till they're about 11. Come on. This is the manor house. Here, yeah.
Through the gate.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll be doing teas a week on Sunday. Sunday.
Antique little lives there now. Mr. Whip.
It's too calm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want one?
You don't want one?
Okay.
Bobby's?
Yep. They're not dissimilar to the buildings in St Paul, are they? No.
Much of the postcards have.
Yeah, and Hackins.
Well, I have never had franchise. Oh, this has a channel. I imagine the Beatles played in all of them.
I came here with a friend on holiday.
The whole hall.
Apparently it was there.
Was that dude? That dude has done a good one before. Yeah.
You get up there so you can hear what they're saying and all that.
Yes?
Is that the street they were on?
Yeah, the cavern is in Matthew Street.
Right here is Cavern
Yeah.
Walk.
So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I'll
put it down there. But this hasn't changed much. They've in the early 70s they demolished the cavern because they built the second Mersey tunnel and they put a ventilator shaft in. Yeah, but it was just down here. I'll show you where. Down here, it was rubble. Anything down here. It's been rebuilt, you see there. That's where it was, and they've rebuilt it. All of that's a new shopping. That's a big new shopping centre built about 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. And there were old bananas, fruit warehouse. So they were the sellers in there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good luck, isn't it? This is just where it was.
But it wasn't like this. It was like that. That's
Oh,
what it was like.
There'd be a door like
It wasn't
that.
like this.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It
this
was more
new.
like that.
Yeah.
On it was here.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all demolished and then they rebuilt it. Very good
It
job.
was right on this site.
Yeah.
But this is all moved back. It was there.
Yeah.
There's the road.
Yeah.
Back there, isn't it?
It was out
So
far.
it was very narrow.
So they paid their $275 in 2.5 years. So when you come next time, we'll come in and go in.
Okay.
But this is all completely, the inside is different too.
Yeah, although it said here,
Yeah, the whole site was
they-
redeveloped.
yeah, but they filled it in and then they dug it all out again. And got those famous arches in them. But they don't open Sundays, no.
At least be early. Saturdays.
And there was a sign vertically down the wall there saying cabin. A statue, isn't it? A lot of these, Ken, these were all fruit warehouses.
Fruit warehouses?
Yeah. Yeah. From the docks.
Four lads who shook the world.
But this is the way the building was.
Yeah. But they'll be back at that line now.
Oh, it was right. It was downstairs.
So,
And it'd be
you know, it's like-
absolutely packed and the water running down the walls. So you come home and your hair would be like rat's tails. Mum always knew where you'd been.
and did you ever come here lunchtimes? But they had lunchtime sessions, didn't they?
And paint, no?
How close to here did you live then?
Well, this is in the town centre. But I mean, my mum would let me go out, no problem at all. There just wasn't. You just felt safe.
I don't think you got the sound switched on this time.
Yeah, I do.
You have?
It's just sad that that isn't available yet for kids and people today.
That's right, they miss out. Yeah. And when we come here, I mean, to go in was about 7 and 6 pence in our day. That was old money, which is about, about 50 cents for me to go in.
They had just a little cover charge.
Yes, yeah. And that was in August '64 when we met. So I mean, the big attraction that night, there was an American on called Mose Allison. Yeah? But it was a blues. They like blues here as well and jazz. And the pub across the road, the Grapes, Doc and I, my friend Anthony, we go down a few pints and then we came in. And we met on a Thursday night, but we come up for previous Saturday. We've been in 1 or 2 clubs every night, and we sort of stayed in the camp until the end of the week. We came here on a Thursday night. We got this little golden rule: we don't sort of take people's addresses or anything like that. Don't have to go on it. But then we came back here the following night as well. Saw them again. That was it.
Still couldn't understand what he said.
No, that's right.
What is he saying?
Yes. And the friend I was with and the friend Doc was with, they got married too.
Oh, did they?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And they live down in Northamptonshire as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you read that? About the
That's
Beatles
our
they
little
came?
claim to
Oh.
fame. I told her.
As tourists? With or without cameras? Yeah. Get that Iowa State on there.
We're sitting here. Didn't you see the sign?
Yeah, I don't know if I knew it.
All the lonely people.
All the lonely people, that's it, isn't it? before the chat.
Now you. Well,
Lucy in the Sky.
It was in the paper around the Echo. A second on there. Good, yeah. Somebody was asking who puts the flowers by on them.
Okay.
And she's from nowhere. I think she's one of these stall coaches, something like that.
Oh, I see, yeah. Hi.
How are we telling for time, Paul?
yeah, stand in the sun. Stand in the sun.
Okay, we really should have Paul and Dot in there too.
No.
Sure.
Doesn't he look nice?
It's black and white, Ken. Is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be? Oh, okay. So, what are you going to sing for us today, Paul McCartney?
Oh, that's right. I've got to stand in.
Yeah,
I
you
forgot.
gotta also wind it over the mountain.
What are you pointing at, Ken? What is that place?
It's the Cavern Club.
What's a cavern?
It's where the Beatles used to play when they became famous.
When they first started? Was that before they went on the Ed Sullivan Show?
Yes, he was.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yes.
And who's that on your T-shirt?
Well, that's...
Turn just a little more, because it's the other way. It's to... There we go. Who is that? Is that Elvis?
Well, it might be Buddy Holly. No, I think it's Paul McCartney.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, I'll take a shot.
Now, it's still saying record.
Okay. You definitely got it.
Stay here.
Okay.
You're gonna run up then, Paul? Okay.
Let me get some pictures of the baby.
Yeah, you'll see better without it. But that's all automatic. Because I see it moving. Now that gal today from the tour said that she was downloaded by
Hey,
It's actually a cruise. It's just been Woodside is very ahead. Seacombe is tucking over there, isn't it? We get a good shots out there, Ken, with the sun behind. The tide down. Because this goes up and down with the tide.
This does.
Yeah.
Because I saw that.
Yeah. And this landing. Yeah, they have their, I think even from further along the Isle of Man.
Show me the best camera for me.
Only over there and back.
Just floats, yeah. And the chains hold it in place.
Big one that's right out there?
Yeah. Yes,
Now you can pull it better. Sideways show up better.
Welcome to the Woodchurch, one of the famous Mersey ferries. May I draw your attention to the emergency procedure displayed around the baptist. In the unlikely event of an emergency, you will use 7-quart glasses followed by one prolonged round on the window. If you bear with me, please make your way to the contact following the emergency exit sign. The buoyant apparatus on the top deck is in fact existing, which will accommodate 1,108 people.
I mean, the population on that side, there's probably 500,000 people on that side.
Is there really?
Yeah. Yeah, the town goes back a long way.
Without it, the Watson County river. Right from the shore,
You want to hear the commentary? We'll tell you anyway. That's the Anglican Cathedral there. It's the biggest cathedral in Britain.
That one?
No, the red one through there.
Oh, okay.
The church, yeah. I mean, that was started early this century and finished about 10 years ago. But it's been done in classic style. And all down here, these warehouses were laying derelict 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah, all those there, and they've all been refurbished. They've done them into apartments and offices and shops, and they're probably still empty.
they're refurbished, but maybe not used.
That's right.
That's just surprising that that whole thing can rise and fall.
That little church is the parish church of Liverpool there.
Okay.
It looks quite small compared to
What's that little tower right there? Does that go back into the streets or anything? Is that like a lot?
The original landing stage was stretched to half a mile. It included St George's Stage, which we just left, and the Prince's Landing Stage, with all the great
It's on record, Ken.
and push the button.
Technique is to follow this umbrella, keep following, well, at least till we get inside the fortress. Once we get inside the fortress, you can break off, you can do whatever you like. As I said, you don't have to stay with me. Most people do, while I tell as many stories as I can about the Tower of London, until we get to the Crown Jewels. Now, when we get to the Crown Jewels, I lose track of you, because there is no guiding allowed in the jewels. You see, you pour through on your own single file. Before you go in, I will explain carefully how best to do it, to get the best advantage from the jewels. But when you come out, it's easy. There's the main gate. I shall be outside the main gate here, somewhere near this tree. This can be confusing. There's a lot of trees. This is the tree with the iron rail around it. This is the tree with Brendan here with his pictures. This is the tree by the ladies' restroom. Or what we call in this country the ladies' loo. So in other words, I shall be lurking by the ladies' loo. There's the men's further along though. There's a coffee stall. Or if you want to sit down and have a nice civilized cup of tea in a china cup, I'll show you where there is a tea shop where you can do that. If you do buy anything to eat or drink, do please come out somewhat earlier in order to consume it before you get back on the bus. As you notice on these Globus Brendan buses, Cosmos buses, there's no eating, no drinking, no smoking. My golly, you can do anything else you like on a Globus Brendan Cosmos bus, as long as you don't eat, drink, or smoke while you're doing it, whatever it is you're doing on there. And I shall remain here till 4 o'clock. Okay? Oh, those people who were asking me about the Hard Rock Cafe t-shirts, if you come out about 3:30, you can easily do that, and I'll show you where you can acquire your Hard Rock, okay? You realise there are some people who have the foggiest idea what we're talking about. There are others who know that they will not be allowed back in the house when they get home unless they got and postage stamps somebody else wanted. Okay, okay, well, shop at 3:30, everybody else 4, all right? Here we go. Follow the umbrella, let's go and have some fun with the Tower of London.
Go on, Charlie.
There we go.
It's so called because it once stood in the middle of the moat. You see, what we're standing on was not here. The River Thames flowed right down and it flowed right round the whole building there. So that's the middle tower, and the middle tower is a part of the Tower of London that is haunted. There are ghosts in the Tower of London. The ghost that haunts the middle tower is the ghost of a man called Lord Ferrars. Now, Lord Ferrars was held in there in 1760, and Lord Ferrars was a cousin to George Washington. Now, back in the year 1760, George Washington was, of course, a highly successful 28-year-old colonel in the British Army. He was one of its rising stars. Because after all, he had just driven the French out of the Shenandoah Valley. He'd later taken their Fort Duquesne off them and renamed it after his Prime Minister, William Pitt. Hence we got Pittsburgh. So while George was celebrating his great victories, his cousin, Lord Ferrars, was held in here. Now, unlike all those other early founders of the United States I was telling you about earlier, Lord Ferrars was not held in here because he was fighting for any religious freedom, or political freedom, or freedom of expression. Lord Ferrars was held in here on a good old-fashioned murder charge. He had murdered his steward, a man called Mr. Johnson. You see, Mr. Johnson had given evidence against Lord Ferrars in his divorce case. So quite reasonably, Lord Ferrars killed him. And on May 5, 1760, Lord Ferrars was taken away from here on a 3-mile journey to the Marble Arch, where he was hanged for murder, right outside the McDonald's at the Marble Arch. well, of course, the McDonald's was not there in those days. We know that because it was Burger King then. There we go. When you come out of the tower, there is a currency exchange. If any of you want to buy in the Tower Shopping King, if you want to change money, that will be open by the time you come out. Now that is Tower Bridge. Let's go and get pictures of Tower Bridge. Marvellous piece of Victorian engineering. Took 8 years to build, completed 1894. Coming up for its 100th anniversary.
With your camera? What's this? Well, Mom's got her camera.
That's Tower Bridge. So that is Tower Bridge, almost 100 years old. That one is London Bridge. That's the new one. I'm sure most of you know the old one is now out in Arizona. That's the new one that replaced it. Over here we have a visiting frigate. Seen some of the sailors about. Next to it is the huge World War II heavy cruiser, Her Majesty's ship Belfast, retired now, and a museum. This is the little stretch of river which has gravel. No good the Romans trying to cross down there. That's mud, the animals get stuck. Quarter of a mile down there, that's mud, the animals get stuck. They had to head for the gravel here. The trails led here, the roads led here, and London began here, this little 1 square mile, almost 2,000 years ago. Let's wander over here and I'll tell you a coincidence to do with the middle tower. Ours was held in the middle tower 233 years ago. By a strange coincidence, 500 years earlier, in other words 700 years ago, that middle tower had been built by Lord Ferrars' ancestor, who was King Edward I. King Edward I built the middle tower, had the moat cut, had the whole outer defence built all round here. It naturally follows that as Edward I was ancestor to Lord Ferrars, he's also ancestor to his cousin, George Washington. In fact, some of you already know that according to the genealogists, at least 19 United States presidents trace their ancestry back to a King of England or a King of Scotland, 19 of them. The genealogists believe there are more than that. They believe more than half of them, but they've only got documents for 19. They tell us that King Edward I, who built all this all the way around here, was ancestor to a whole clutch of US presidents, including the Harrisons, John Quincy Adams, James Monroe, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, of course, George Bush, and also Richard Nixon. More of that as we proceed. The plot thickens. It gets altogether much worse as we go along. Now, I have been asked if they have traced President Bill Clinton's ancestor back to the Kings of England. As far as I know, that has not been done yet. But what they did do is they found that Bill Clinton's family and George Bush's family, one branch of each, came from the same village in England, where over 700 years ago, everybody in the village pretended to be stark staring mad. The reason they did that, and they did it so convincingly, was because the tax inspectors wouldn't go near the village. They were frightened to go there. Anyway, Traitors' Gate. So called because this is where traitors and alleged traitors were brought, either to await their trial or to await their execution. This used to be the main entrance in the Middle Ages. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, what we're standing on wasn't here. River Thames flowed right up the wall, right the way round. One would therefore enter there by barge, on water, through that gate. So that is a genuine water gate. Yes, everybody ever wondered what a water gate was? Furthermore, as I correctly stated just down there, this water gate was built 700 years ago by King Edward I, who was ancestor to Richard Nixon. We have therefore clearly established that they run in the family. Now, in a moment, what we'll do is go forward, and there will be a you give up your ticket first to the man in the uniform. There will then be a security check. Ladies, they will want to look in your bags. They are worried about people taking bombs into the tub. All my ladies here who have brought bombs with them, please leave them outside. When you go through, it would help if you have your bag unzipped. As soon as you are through, zip them up and hold them like some of these ladies do here. Shoulder strap there, arm on it, always. Wherever you're going, wherever your tour is going, you hold that bag under your arm with the shoulder strap, huh?
Yeah.
They will give a prize for the neatest handbag. Hands up all those from California. Would the Californians please check all of their automatic weapons and hand grenades at the desk? We all know what goes on in California, don't we? Yes, he says. Go on, gang. On the left.
Special ticket to see this at night when I was here that time.
Oh, yeah?
Shot, come back again. I don't know. Not after the shot in there. Yeah, we can do it now if you like. Well, I'll be here for a few minutes. Close in. Now let's close in and we can get the shade, can't we, huh? Wonderful stuff. And then if anybody comes, leave a space for them to go by. Now, if you were in a helicopter looking down on this fortress, you'd notice that that wall surrounds the entire complex. It's a self-contained fortress. It's 700 years old. Set back inside, surrounding a lesser area, but taller and thicker, another completely self-contained fortress, 7.5 centuries old. Set back inside that, yet another completely self-contained fortress, 900 years old. So, you've got one fortress, another one wrapped round it, another one wrapped round it. That was surrounded by water. In the Middle Ages, this was impregnable. If anybody had got in this far, they would find themselves confronted by yet another fortress. No gate there then. Those crosses in the wall are arrow slits, so if you're attacking, you've only got a small target, but they fire out. If we go down here, we see arrow slits from the inside. Look at this. The ground would be lower then. Archer can stand here, traverse left, right, elevate the breast, you see. The first class team in here. There's plenty of shade over this side if you want the shade. It's not very often in London we have to look for shade, I'll tell you.
Was there water in here then too?
Well, before they built this, there was. 700 years ago. The water went beyond there 7.5 centuries ago before they built that one. When we get to the inside, the 900-year-old part, you see some old rocks on the ground, which was the dock, where the boats could actually come right to the old part. The river has got narrower and narrower and narrower all the way along as they built out. Yeah, made the river narrower and therefore a bigger tide and a faster flowing one. And the more it flowed. This used to be much wider. And at low tide you could walk across on the gravel, see? In fact, to this day, under that London Bridge there, a basketball player, 7 foot tall, could still do it at a very low tide. He could still walk across the base of London Bridge. But 27 feet goes on top of it. It can go from a very low of about 6 to a very high of about 33. Massive tide, massive. You see where the Yeoman warder is there, standing at the top of the steps up which those prisoners were brought. In 1554, the teenage princess, young woman, Elizabeth, 1554 was brought up those steps. She was held in that top cell there of that round tower, which is called the Bell Tower. Oh, close in, gang, let's feel that, let them go. That's the idea. The Bell Tower. It was feared she would be executed. But fortunately, I would say, for every single one of us here, 4 years later, she became the great Queen Elizabeth I. I say fortunately for everybody here, because Elizabeth I is the great Queen who began the massive expansion of the English-speaking people around the world, taking with them not only the language you speak, but what is much more important, the law you live under. The law you live under is, of course, the English common law. It's the basis, it's the bedrock of the great Western democracies. It's a law that's sweeping the world now. The sooner all the rest of them get it, the better off we'll all be. I'm assuming, of course, that everybody here has the privilege of living in one of those great old democracies under that common law. Who's from Canada here? Where's the Canadians? We've got a whole bus here with no Canadians on board. We got any Australians with us this afternoon? We got any New Zealanders? Good grief. Would I be correct in assuming then that everybody else here is either from the United States or Texas? Good. Well, good man. Well, okay, that makes it easy. Where you all live was all originally named for her, because she's the queen who never got married. She is therefore known as the Virgin Queen. Grave doubts about that, but that's what she meant. She was the patron and sponsor to Sir Walter Raleigh. And when Raleigh claimed the whole North American continent, he named it for her, including Texas, Canada, and the United States. He named it for her, his patron and sponsor, the Virgin Queen. He called the whole lot Virginia. See, that's Virginia. That was her. She was brought up there. She's held in there. Raleigh, the original owner of the North American continent, was held prisoner there in the Bloody Tower for 13 years until he was executed. See, Raleigh was doing fine while there was a woman on the throne of England. Well, he would, wouldn't he? Very much a ladies' man. Handsome man. Brilliant scholar, historian, poet, scientist, soldier, sailor, adventurer, lawyer, liar. Yeah. He was an all-round Englishman. So he was doing fine while there was a woman on the throne of England. But in 1603, the great Queen died, was succeeded by her cousin, James VI of Scotland, who came down to London to become James I of England. I think the tough old barons in London were somewhat amazed when he arrived, because he sort of flitted into London with a lot of men friends. So there were great differences between he and Raleigh, the ladies' man. There were also great political differences, which is much more to the point, and also King James I could not stand people who smoked. King James I was one of the world's first great anti-smoking campaigners. Yes, King James I wrote a whole book about the evils of smoking, and it was published almost 400 years ago. And only the other evening at home, I was reading some of the excerpts from that book, in which King James writes of that deceivable weed, tobacco, which serves neither for necessity nor for ornament to the life of man. The smoking of it, he wrote, is a custom, loathsome to the eye, hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, dangerous to the lungs, and in the black, stinking fume thereof, nearest resembling the horrible Stygian smoke of the pit that is bottomless. Eh? He didn't like smoking. We know about Raleigh bringing the tobacco back. Finished up with Raleigh being executed. Proof enough, I suppose, that smoking can seriously damage your health. Now, when you're finished with whatever you want to do here, there is the way, this is the shortest way out anyway. That takes you straight out, outside the main gate to the ladies' loo. But there's more to show you. If you wish to stay with me, you can look. We're going under the bloody... is of seasoned oak, hundreds of years old, now turned to the consistency of stone, reinforced with iron spike. This thing, this portcullis weighs 2.5 tons and dates from the 14th century. We must be careful when we go underneath, because the rope holding it up also dates from the 14th. Now here we go. You looked at this place and saw a great, squat, massive medieval fortress. You think, why? So they call it the Tower of London. When you're inside and you see the earliest part, perhaps you can understand. There it is. That's the part that is over 900 years old. If you can imagine 900 years ago the kind of small wooden buildings that people used to live in, when this thing was constructed, it dominated the scene, towered above London, and it towered above everything for hundreds of years, hence the Tower of London, you see. William I, and since then been used for many things. Let's wander up here. You see where the boats used to pull in? The remains of the dock anyway. There's another one sunbathing there. Another one strutting about down there. Now this is obviously, as you can see, a Texas hummingbird. A very young one, of course. Stunted, in fact. Most of us call them ravens. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to keep at least 6 great black ravens here in the Tower of London at all times. It is very, very important we so do. Because if the 6 great black ravens ever leave the Tower of London, terrible things will happen. The tower itself will crumble, the crown will fall, the country will collapse, and the mighty Commonwealth of British nations will disintegrate. It will clearly be the saddest day in the history of civilization. To avert that catastrophe, we keep the 6 great black ravens here. Now, one of the Yeoman Warders, if I see the particular one about, I'll point him out to you. He holds the title of Master of the Ravens. He is the Raven Master, and his duty is to look after the 6 great black ravens and ensure that they stay here. This he does by feeding them regularly and clipping their wings. That's actually done, yeah. The present Raven Master seems to me to be a rather nervous, insecure man. Well, he does have the whole future of civilization resting on his shoulders, because he keeps 8. He's got 2 sitting on the substitute bench if he can. Now you may think, alright, you may think that all this talk of the ravens is legend and superstition. It's nothing of the sort. It is a cast iron fact borne out by 900 years of history. You see, for 900 years we've had 6 great black ravens here. And for 900 years we've been alright, haven't we? Have you noticed, ladies and gentlemen, in all these great wars and conflagrations that take place in the world, the side that has England on it wins. 2 reasons for that. First, the ravens. The second, I'm sure you're all aware of, the simple fact that God is an Englishman. The things you learn on these tours, it's fantastic. But this is why you come, isn't it, to get these insights. Okay, when you study history, you find that the trouble begins over there, in Europe, doesn't it? For hundreds and hundreds of years, that over there in Europe have been raising great armies, navies, air forces, dictators, tyrants, generals, pouring their hordes across Europe, trying to take this island. If they are lucky, they get to Calais in France, look across the 20 miles of the English Channel, they can see the white cliffs of Dover, then we bury them. And this has been going on for hundreds of years, and they never learn. Who's been there? Anybody been to Europe? Somebody must. You have, ladies? Who's going? Anybody going? Oh, lots of you. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get there, you will discover that they are foreigners over there. Isn't that true, ladies? Most of them do not speak a word of English, do they? That is where they go wrong. You see? In all these wars and when the going gets really tough, both sides pray to God. What's the good of that lot over there praying when he cannot understand a word they're talking about? Right, we've got that established in our minds. The story will now become clear. It'll all make sense. It'll fall into place. Good, follow me. Here we go. The young lady was a fight amongst the English. Have a look. You're in your library at college. You'll find the Declaration of Independence. Have a look at all those names down there. See if you can find any Czechoslovakian names.
It is true.
Chinese or Japanese. All right?
That's exactly right.
Follow the hats. And then, 750 years ago, they built that one. Oh, you're going straight through? All right, pull over here, folks. Like that, the 700-year-old one. And then the water around that, of course. Now, this is the old part. This is over 900 years old. That's called the Norman Keep, or the Great White Tower. Down there, we know the Bloody Tower, where Raleigh was held. Now, near where you live, there's a whole development of condominiums done in what they call the Tudor style. Black and white looking. That is genuine Tudor. That's real Tudor. That was built by the great Tudor himself, Henry Tudor, Henry VIII. Okay? That is now guarded, you'll notice. It is the residence of the governor of the tower. Then we have the Beauchamp Tower, which was a prison. And next to it is the doctor's house. You see, there are 50 families living in this great hospital. This place, there's a population of almost 200 living in the tower. It's like a medieval village still in existence. They have their own doctor, got their own chaplain, got their own chapel. And where my colleague is standing with her group there, see her with her umbrella, the saddest spot in Christendom is where the when you come out of the jewels, you can go over there, take a photograph of the execution spot. That's where the scaffold used to be built. 2 of Henry VIII's wives were executed there, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. Other members of the royal family, and you see their names on a board there. You see, folks, in the old days, there were different kinds of execution according to where you stood in society. Imagine that, the old class system came into play, even for execution.
You got tired of country.
Oh, if you were royal blood, you're going to be executed, you have 2 privileges. The first privilege was you were executed in private, here on Tower Green, only the staff present. The second privilege was that you were executed with an axe. That was a privilege. Now you come down the social scale a little bit. Ordinary lords and dukes, not of royal blood. You were taken down those steps, under that bloody tower, turn right, out onto Tower Hill to be executed in public. Now out there they would build not only a scaffold, they would also build a grandstand. And they would sell tickets to the show. Thousands of people would come, beer would flow, wine would be served, food would be cooked, see? Because there was no television in those days, you see? No regular football matches to go and see. You had to get your entertainment wherever you could. You went to see a good old execution. Now the lords and the dukes still reserve the privilege of the axe. And the sensible thing for a lord or duke to do as he mounted the steps of the scaffold would be to give the axe man a few gold coins as a tip. Yeah. If ever you wanted a good, clean, quick, professional job, it was then. Does anybody know what that money was called that you gave the Axemen? Good guess, blood money. Yeah, no, not blood money, no. That was a good... The money you gave the Axemen, the money you gave it... You think that stuff out there about Watergate was bad? Wait till you get this one. This is the worst one of the day. Brace yourself. The money you gave the Axeman was called severance pay. A lot of people always looking in one particular showcase because it's the one that shows you the coronation regalia still used to this day. You will see a crown there, and it is marked Imperial State Crown. Queen wears it at least once a year. In front of the Imperial State Crown, what appears to be a great cluster of diamonds. You must spot this one. Imperial State Crown is not a cluster, it's one colossal stone. It's not only huge, but it's flawless. Not only that, but it is the rarest of all. And they come out of only one mine in the world. That huge, flawless diamond is 317 carats. It's the largest on earth set for one. You're going to see that one as well. Set up in front of the crowns like that. There are a couple of things, they look like wands. They're called scepters. And one is marked, scepter with the cross. You must pick out the scepter with the cross. In the end is the greatest of them all, the mighty Star of Africa. 530 carats. Now this lot are not insured. When you insure to replace. That is clearly out of the question. There are no such gems on this earth, but because they're not insured, they are of course very, very well protected. As I said, you will go down under the ground. You will see that you go in through the great vault door. You see bulletproof glass. It's air temperature controlled. There's electronic surveillance. There are guards downstairs. Should the alarm go off, the doors close automatically. The crown jewels disappear to another vault underneath. Police cars surround the building. Police launches arrive on the river. And a gunship appears overhead. And right above is a garrison of crack infantry troops, quite capable of protecting the crown jewels and kicking the Argentinians off the Falkland Islands in the same afternoon. Also, to protect the crown jewels by a strange quirk of English law, the old medieval punishment for stealing the crown jewels is still on the statute book. It has never been repealed. It is still therefore the law of the land, and that is that if you try to steal the crown jewels, the London bobbies will take you off and nail you to a church door. It has to be a church door. A church of your own choosing, of course. It is a free country. However, when you are nailed to the church door, your troubles have only just begun. Because in the first place, the bus will leave without you. And secondly, you are then skinned alive. So do not try to steal the crown jewel, as it is a punishment guaranteed to make your eyes water. Now that punishment, ladies and gentlemen, also applies to people who try to take photographs of the crown jewels. So do not use your camera or video equipment in there. In fact, it's even worse for taking photographs, because when they nail you to the church door, they not only nail you upside down, they also expose the film. One thing, gang, look, the exit is there. That's the exit from the jewels. Now, when you come out, some of you might be out as little as 20 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on the interest. There are other things here. You've plenty of time. But remember, when you want to leave, easy. Straight down those steps. Under the bloody tower. Just as though you were going to be executed. Turn right. turn right. If you are not lurking by the ladies' loo at 4 o'clock, I have to assume that you are nailed to a church door somewhere. On the drive back to the hotels, we should look at all the church doors as we go by. Might see some of last week's people there. Oh, except you t-shirt people and that. See you at 3:30. And the rest, here we go. Hold on. See you by the ladies' loo.
Well, look at the, I'm sorry, look at the stone in the...
Some moving too down there then, Ken.
No.
Amsterdam right here.
They will tell you everything about the mill, how it works, what they're doing. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Join me a bit, there's plenty of space for all of you, so we can see and hear each other. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the day out there is perfect for tourism at the moment, but not much for windmills. I think you already found out why, because there's hardly wind today. It's beautiful weather out there, more for the beach than for the windmill. There's less wind to operate, so sometimes the mill stops and then it starts running very slowly. We have set already the maximum of sail that we have on the rafts out there for catching up the wind power to keep it going. And with these sails on the blades up, you're able to control the speed as you go. It means if the force is strong enough, you can use all the inside machinery. If it goes faster and faster, you're able to stop it with the brake system from working up there and roll away a piece of sail to bring the speed of the windmill down. On each blade you can make a quarter sail, a three-quarter sail. In stormy conditions it still works, but without the sails they're not necessary anymore. And that's the way to control the speed of the windmill, by setting out sail and taking it away again. It's about the same principle as a sail ship. The second problem that you have is that not only the force of the wind can change, but also the direction of the wind can alter. So the top of the building, the head of this construction with the blades on, is standing loose on the building and can be winched around by the mill at 360 degrees. The head of the mill, including shaft and blades up there, has a weight of 15 tons, and one man can winch that on his own to all the wind directions. And that's the simple principle of the Dutch windmill. The windmills on the outside look quite similar here, all of them. The inside work of each one is completely different, all the work. In this area, windmills were quite specialized. This is one of them. We used to have in the old days, along the borders of this riverside, 1,000 windmills. From all these 1,000, there are only 12 remaining. This is one of them. The name of this windmill is the Cat, and it's built in 1782. The products we do here are rather strange ones. Some visitors believe they see a Dutch flour mill here, and they grasp and tasting like powder that you grind underneath those stones. All that we produce underneath those stones is chalk, so if you want to make bread from this powder, it will be quite heavy on your stomach. The grinding wheels have the weight of 7 tons, the big couple here, and we grind chalk with them as a pigment for paint. A few hundred years ago, people had hardly chemical waste to produce colors for paint. They digged up and mined up rough colors all around Europe. The pigments were delivered to the windmill in rough pieces. They were crushed here, sieved here. The fine quality of powder that was left was sent to the painter. He was the person who made paint from the powder by adding liquid to it. For that purpose he used linseed oil, egg tempera, or water with Arabic gums. In this windmill we only milled the dry powders because people in the old days had no suitable containers or tubes. They were not able to preserve the wet paints for a long time. That's the main reason that we only mill dry pigments in this mill, and not paints in containers. The second product we do are dyes for cloth. Most of our clothings nowadays are produced in a chemical way and they're dyed in a chemical way. In the old days there were only natural variants and natural dyes. The dyes were also produced in this windmill from woods. In Asia and South America you can find trees growing within the heart of the tree that dye. There are woods available that deliver red dyes, yellow ones, and blue ones. The woods were cut off in lengths of 1.5 to 2 meters, shipped over to the windmill and reduced to smaller pieces by the choppery. It's a piece of machinery that you find in the back of the windmill, consisting of a big barrel with a toothed wheel, driving around slowly, and 4 rammers breaking the dye woods to chips. The chips of those woods were later powdered underneath the little stones in the closed room in here, 5 tons weight. The powder from the crushed dye wood that was left in the end was sent to the Dutch cloth industry, where people used it for dyeing for wool, cotton, or silk. And that's the reason that this windmill is named the color mill, because for more than 220 years we produced pigments and dye woods by wind power. If you want to see further information of what the mill produces, you find some samples of what we make in the showcase on the wall. You find some information about the grinding, crushing of colors as well there. If you like to, you can also go up the stairs to visit the platform in the inside work. When you climb the stairs, always face them when you go up. When you come down afterwards, face them again like a ladder. It's the most safest way for climbing it. Have a nice time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Still boils
thanks
down
for
to
the
the
time.
same thing. For your efforts, you gotta have your market figured out.
Sorry?
It still boils down to the same thing for your efforts. I guess it does.
I was expecting someone to start coming down, weren't you?
Look at these two.
Stretch that over there, that's all.
Sticks past here, bud. foot hanging down this thick. This is held down. It's got some wire to hold it. That's fairly simple. Chicken netting, and that keeps the birds out. Is that about speed to this thing?
Yeah, maybe a little fast, but otherwise it's about the same speed.
Way too fast. Looks like a baby.
Yeah, they're really small.
Aren't they though?
This is the center beam that goes straight through the middle of the windmill. Let's keep going up and see what we find.
I think that probably is
Yeah, now. Now the whole thing must rotate.
Huh?
Yeah, the whole thing must rotate, not just the top.
Questions? Everybody can hear me? Okay, let's start with I think everybody can do it. Now we have the outside of the wooden shoe, the inside is the same principle as the outside. Yeah? This part follows the inside of the sample and this drill will cut it out. Well, now we have to dry the wood for about 5 weeks. When we dry the wood, we do it outside under a shed in the wind. Never in the sun, otherwise the wooden shoe will split. Then we have to polish it to make it nice and smooth. Do that on this side by the belt. The final result is wooden shoe for a 3-year-old child.
Now we're in Cologne. It is the 9th of June, and here's a Gothic cathedral. It's in Cologne, Germany.
1880, the way we see it today. It took some hundreds of years to complete. The oldest part is where you see the high altar and the part behind it. That was completed already towards the end of the 14th century. That's where you also have the oldest stained glass windows. And behind the high altar you also see under glass the shrine of the 3 holy kings, or the 3 wise men, which is still original. That is the 12th century AD. Because the cathedral is dedicated to the 3 wise men. All the other stained glass windows when you enter on the left or the right hand side, they are only from 1880, 1882. So fairly new, brand new, compared to the history of the cathedral as such. As I said, well, it's the largest Gothic cathedral here in Germany, the main church at the moment for the Roman Catholic community in Germany. Because the Cardinal Archbishop of Cologne is the leader of the Roman Catholic Church here in Germany at the moment. This place here was also during the Roman period a very holy place, because that's where the main temple used to be during the Roman times, dedicated to God's seal, Jupiter. And later on, when Christianity started, they had built here up the first Christian churches. That is now the 3rd Christian church here in the same spot. The other one's been older, from the 8th and from the 9th century, but there's nothing left. From the Roman times, as I said, there's not very much left. Only after World War II, when Cologne was destroyed, there was a rent here, only 2 facades left here, right, left, etc. They found a lot of things from the Roman times, columns, statues, broken ornaments and all that. A good example is the arch there, that's from the Roman times. They found here in the vicinity of the cathedral and put it up there later on. But also around the cathedral, on the right-hand side, there's a so-called Roman-German museum, where you see even from outside a lot of things they found in Cologne from the Roman times. Quite interesting. It's just around the corner here, actually, from the cathedral. Okay, then eating facilities, very important. Toilets first. Public toilet facilities are around the corner here on the right-hand side downstairs. The girls have to have 50 pennies handy. The boys don't pay as long as you stand up. I know it's not fair, but...
You're right. I'll stand.
Yeah, how it is. Then eating facilities. There is a very nice coffee shop over there, especially with regards to pastry. The service, unfortunately, is a bit slow, I have to say. Then, if you go through there you can see how huge tree. There's a little square, yes? And then just on the left-hand side, there's a huge pastry shop where they sell open sandwiches, coffee. Inside you have to stand up to have that, but outside under the tree there are also tables and a counter where you can buy in a self-service way and sit down. They've got very good open sandwiches and also all kinds of German pastry. If they're into that kind of thing, that's the place. No calories, of course. didn't know that altogether. Otherwise, international cuisine a la McDonald's is also available over there. No? But if I see anyone from my tour in McDonald's, you're not allowed back on the coast. Nothing to happen. What you say? Okay, then, yes. Oh, yeah, by the way, did you see for 7-Eleven? That's where they sell the products, no? From that company. It would be, that is a typical souvenir from Cologne. Eau de Cologne for 7-Eleven. You can't be more original. Right? Okay, I see you at 10 to 12 inside the station. And as I said, watch it, watch it, watch it. You're closing the door. All right? I got one. Here, you can get a beer there, you can get a beer in McDonald's, you can get a beer down there. But they don't do that with us. These are the cookies over there.
What?
You're heading in there?
Oh, yes, sure. You can get a beer, but
That should be good.
a grocery store.
Oh, that's
A real person standing there. Light it up. Why don't you go right up close, Ken?
want to get closer, don't you?
Let's
Are going inside the cathedral. Let's go through the revolving doors, and we are inside. More of the stained glass windows inside the cathedral. It's about 10 minutes till 11 a.m. 7 hours difference from Central Time here in Cologne. Another one of the walls. There's an old style ladder that they used to have.
Where's that catfish? No pasta.
Baguette, frikadello, mangold.
I will go get a beer. I'd rather have a beer. Here we are in the restaurant. We're going to grab something to eat.
You're not taking it now, are you?
I'm not, that's alright, I'm just taking the people.
I don't want to get my hand on the No, it's fine. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good, doesn't
Selling a lot of pastries, sandwiches, all the good stuff. It's one of the streets we're here in Germany yet. Some pictures. A shot of the cathedral. And even in Germany they got ATM.
Isn't that what they call it at home?
Yeah, the instant cash of Germany.
How did it come in?
another side of the cathedral.
En la segunda cubierta, o arriba en la cubierta junto a la cabina del capitán.
See if Shirley thinks this is a good line.
No, you left on it?
We're good? You've got to have 2 sips before she decides. Very good. All right.
I got down on my knee.
With German to the right, up of the hill, the 1,000-year-old castle Schönburg. This castle was destroyed in the year 1689 and restored in the 19th century. Since then, one part of the castle has been used as an international youth hostel, another part as a hotel. Mesdames et messieurs, à votre droite, un peu notable le château Schönburg. Mesdames et messieurs, vous pouvez acheter tout au long de le panorama. Señores y señores, si desean pueden comprar tarjetas postales de la Lorelai y del barco de Orenfeld, como asimismo aparecen con las descripciones de los castillos en castellano.
And there's more of the mountains and vineyards. And there's the vineyards. People in the tour with us. Castles. Bottle.
No, it's always out in the barn.
Is that where we're staying tonight?
Nice little town here along the Rhine River. Castle up on the top, town along there. Not sure the name of it though. Beautiful here, probably 80s. A lot of nice people, a lot of nice towns, a lot of vineyards, and that turns out a lot of good wine.
Oh, she got more than I got. Hey, she got more than I got.